The beginning of a Qigong practice, the beginning of a mind-body practice, the beginning of any meditative practice is a call to collect ourselves and to relax. So what we do in Recovering the Way, in order to start to get the parasympathetic nervous system moving so that we get rid of this fright or flight, is we tune into our hands and relax our hands. And what I want you to do is to put down the residue of anything that you have in your hands, and it could be anything as small as a pen, or a phone, or a steering wheel, or the person that we're going to be interacting with, or a doorknob, or the mouse. And what I'd like you to do is to physically relax your hands and drop. Matter of fact, whatever it is, just drop it almost so you can hear it hit the floor. Drop and let go. Tune into the shoulders. Let the shoulders go. Now for me, I tend to kind of have my shoulders either back or forward or ready to move or ready to rise, as if I'm walking out of a store with a couple of shopping bags. So let's let the shoulders relax. And the feet, check in with the feet. Can you feel the feet? Can you feel the floor under your feet? And notice, are the toes squirming? Are they squirming? Are they moving? Whatever it is that you can do to stop them from moving around. So what we're doing here is we're using the beginnings and the rudimentary of what is called interoception, proprioception. Now proprioception is just basically the feeling of our body in space. The cerebellum is always doing its work, keeping us in balance, but we really don't pay a lot of attention to it. So notice the feet, and as if you had a tail, if you had a long tail like a kangaroo, let the tail drop on the ground and take a nice breath in and out. So we're going to do our little guided meditation of what we've done before. And what we're going to do is take our hand and imagine in the pinky. At the very end of the pinky is very, very, very tender skin under the nail bed. When we clip our nails, there's no sensation. And what I want you to do is tune into that. Tune into that soft, subcutaneous, fleshy, pulpy skin under the nail bed. And as if it were a muscle, relax it. Relax that soft, fleshy, pulpy skin. And you might say, well, there's no muscle there. I can't do that. So there's something else called interoception. And interoception is the internal sensations that go in between the brain and the body. Intero, inside, ception. It's a communicative pathway, and this communicative pathway can be vascular, muscular, chemical, hormonal. And what we're doing by noticing this is that we're starting to dilate blood vessels. We're having an effect upon the circulatory system. Go to the next finger and relax that. Middle finger. And you can go from finger to finger, and with each one we'll probably say, oh well, oh my God, I didn't realize. I thought I was relaxing, but I didn't realize actually I'm still kind of clawing my way through. In between the index finger and the thumb, there's an area called the tiger's mouth in Oriental medicine. See if what you can do to relax that. Meridians begin and end at the fingers and toes. Let's go to a toe. The smallest of the toes, the tiny little pinky toe. Very powerful in Oriental medicine, very powerful. See if you can use the mind to relax that soft, fleshy, pulpy, tender skin under the pinky toenail. Now, what happens with me is that I start to notice that my breath slows down and deepens. I might even see, hey, wait a minute, I just took a sigh. I took a yawn. That's an indication that the parasympathetic nervous system is starting to have an effect. The parasympathetic is the opposite of what is called the fright or flight. The parasympathetic nervous system, dominated by the vagus nerve, cranial nerve 10, is the longest nerve in the body. It intertwines the viscera, all of the organs, sends information to and back to the brain. So what we're doing is the old name for Qigong in antiquity was guiding and leading. So what we're actually doing here is we are guiding and leading whom and what. So the observer, okay, the observer is key here. So yin and yang, let's turn our palms forward. Yin and yang, up and down, in and out, forward and back, bright and dark, and we're going to emulate that yin and yang cycle by bringing our arms up around mid-chest height and turning over and coming down. And as they pass the body, if we want to bring them up the same way that we did before, well, there's only one way to do that, and we turn the hands back again. Up and down. So how many things in life could we possibly look at and say, well, they share this continuum? Well, certainly there's morning, noon, evening, night. There's the breath. There's the heartbeat itself. There are the seasons. There's life. Is there anything, really, that doesn't follow this natural cycle? So in Yin Yang, they talk about eternal things that never change, okay? And what doesn't change is the fact that the relationship between yin and yang is inexhaustible. So in recovery, the first step in the recovery process from anything is admitting that we're powerless over whatever it is, and our lives had become difficult or tenuous or unmanageable, or we don't like what's going on, or we can't handle it. And why might that be? Well, I'll tell you why that might be with me, is that I seem to think that I can defy this natural process. Here's an example. I'm scattered. I'm all over the place. I don't know where I am. I'm not connected. And like a kite that gets away from us, okay, if we accidentally let it go, the first thing we're going to do is run after the kite. Oh, yang needs to be chased with more yang. More needs to be, the way to solve more is by doing more. Well, no. The secret to the kite is that it is rooted in the floor through us. So coming to believe that powers greater than ourselves, conterminous with ourselves, could restore us to sanity. Yin Yang is a wonderful paradigm to work with. It is a fantastic paradigm. Now, as we're doing this, and we're doing this nice and slowly, we call this just moving, because that's what happens in nature. Nature just moves from yin to yang. So it's noticing that this process happens. And as we do this, we are making changes in our nervous system, changes in our physiology. And speaking about changes, we're going to change this movement just a little bit, and then we're going to change it even a little more. So we're going to come down, and what we're going to do now is we're going to keep the backs of our hands facing the ceiling instead of turning them. And as we come around, we're going to make a little bird's beak. Maybe put the thumb and the index finger and the fingers next to each other, and then flatten them out as we come down. So I've heard it said in recovery early on, a blade of grass is only going to grow as much as a blade of grass is going to grow in a day. Can we get that blade of grass up a little bit? And then we're going to push down some aspect that we would like to see dissipate. So is there something in our lives that we would like to see manifest? And we're going to pull it up. And is there something in our lives that we would like to see abate a little bit? So if we think that in meditation we have to stop thinking, this is a meditation that is actually critically, consciously aware of ourselves. And when we start to do this in a quieted state, well, making a decision, right, to turn our will over. And even just a little bit, when we slow ourselves down, physiologically, and I'm not really adept enough to talk about everything that goes on in the thalamus and the hypothalamus and the amygdala, but we are having buku, large, wholesale, momentary changes in our brain waves, and starting the heart and the brain are starting to come a little bit more into coherence. So probably a lot of people have heard something about a fourth step in recovery, and if you haven't, that's okay, and that's where we start to take an inventory of ourselves. And we're going to do a little bit of that, but it's not going to be on the character level. This is going to be on the physical level. We're going to take a little bit of an inventory. And the way we're going to start to do that, another aspect of Oriental medicine and Taoism is either it is stuck or it's moving. And one of the principal causes of disease is either stagnation or deficiency. So we're going to work with those opposites. And what we're going to do now is come up, and our hands are going to continue to come up over our head and expand as if opening to the sun or a flower. Open up. And then as we come down, now we will have a little effort and tighten up the wrists and the arms and the shoulders and the buttocks and the thighs and the feet, not to the point of exhaustion, just enough. This is kind of analogous to if we're washing dishes and the sponge is getting all dirty, and then we take the time out from washing the dishes and we say, you know what, I'm going to clean the sponge. And I want to ask you one of the deep secrets of the universe. Isn't there something pleasing about squeezing out that sponge? Isn't there something there that we go, oh my God, that's it. That's it. But me, I'm good. So here, we're actually moving here fairly good amounts of lymph and blood an interstitial fluid, and we are engaging in a process of moving the interior. So this is also now a very, very subjective, highly subjective experience. One more time. So if you want to make it a good one, you can make it a real good one. If you don't want to, don't. But I don't want anyone thumping on the floor, so just take it at your own pace. And come back up. Wonderful. Good. Take a little shake out. A little shake, a little bounce. So we call this also Tai Chi easy. And we're going to do some really, really easy Tai Chi. What's Tai Chi? Tai Chi is a type of Qigong. What's Qigong? Qigong is playing with these energies, playing with these ineffable, kind of fluffy energies. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an opening. Now an opening is, you can't really see my feet, but you can see where I am. What we're going to do is lean on one side. Lean on one side to the point that we can keep almost all of our weight there and just let the other foot slide open. And then come back, hands in front. Good. Okay. Now, our hands are kind of in front. See what we can do to relax the shoulders. This is work and still at the same time. Relax the hands. Let the elbows drop. Let the shoulders drop. Let the tail drop. And see if you can get the head to rise just a little bit. Great. And we're going to expand and open a little bit. And then close. So you know the way a fish gets its oxygen out of the water, that its gills open and close? We're getting ready to practice by doing that. Open and close. Great. Open and close. So what we're doing here is we're kind of now discovering, noticing Qi. What we're going to do is open. Open, and we're going to gather from the earth, bending down, and with our hands as if we can gather some aspect from earth and bring it in. And then from the sky, so gathering heaven and earth is possibly the most commonly used Tai Chi move through all the families and all of the different forms. And in Qigong, we're going to use this as if we're mining, as if we're gathering something. So in Taoism, earth is not only stillness, but earth is where things fundamentally can grow. It's like a womb or an oven. So what can I gather from earth that will hollow me out and make me ready to receive the energy of the sun? Intuition. Intuition, brightness, awareness. So I spoke early on about the importance of the observer. Key in and notice Very, very important. Notice the sensations that are going on in the hands. Notice the sensations that are going on in the heart, in the body, in the mind, in our breath. It is the observer that is the measure. All of this science now that we talk about, and the burgeoning amount of information that is coming out about brain activity, interoception, proprioception, all of this is nothing without the subjectivity of the individual in their own heart and their own mind. And the scientific process, we lose that degree of subjectivity. And what we're doing here is we are coming back to ourselves and noticing, what does that feel like? Coming back into our own bodies. Wonderful. We're going to come down and turn to one side. And let's get a comfortable place here, okay? Now, I'm going to show you what to do. You don't have to follow with your hands right now because I'm talking now about the lower part of the body. So our feet will be sort of at a 45-degree angle, kind of a 45-degree angle. Have room so that we can move forward and back. Okay, imagine that we were a sail and there were a wind behind us, okay? And the wind can push us forward or the wind can push us back, okay? And put the hands up in front. And what we're going to do is push with the body. And then we're going to go back with the body. And as we're doing this, notice that the hands are pushing forward by virtue of the body moving forward. And then we go into a pull and notice that the hands are pulling back by virtue of the body coming back. Push and pull. Imagining that there is either a weight there or something, and we're going to push out, and now after we push out, the hands come down and the pull comes up, right? So we got a circle going on here, and this is part of what is called silk reeling. It's a beautiful, beautiful descriptive name for a series of practices that are fluid in their nature, that emulate the natural cycle of yin and yang in a dynamic way. And as we do this, when we do slow, repetitive, gentle movements and slow the breath down, we are again now having an effect upon the endocrine system. We're having an effect on the nervous system. When we slow our breath down to under 7 or 8 breaths a minute, there are fundamental changes that happen that we start to trigger serotonin generation, GABA, oxytocin. And actually the tissues of the body themselves send signals back to the brain that everything's cool, that there's no saber-toothed tiger in the room. And we're going to push out now. And is there something about our character, about my character, something I'd like to see dissipate or go? And what we're going to do is we're going to push. And what might be some answer or remedy? And as we come up, we're just going to make ourselves available to what that might be. And it might not have any words. This might be a totally wordless experience. But again, this is the observer. See, the 12-step method is about character rearrangement. It's about changing thinking. And this gives it a bodily aspect to join it. Notice what it feels like right in the gut, in the heart, that the possibility of change might be there. So wondering where that might come from is part of what we do. And in meditation, in Taoism, the season of winter is the season of mystery. And there's a saying, learn to love the mystery. Learn to love not knowing, but with knowledge that there is a pattern that will repeat in the world of healing. Noting that these things do happen, that yin and yang exists, that is wisdom. And there is a relationship between mystery and wisdom and fear and wisdom in Oriental medicine. And there's a relationship between fear and wisdom in recovery. Fear is just an uncertain feeling that there is no solution. We are condemned to repeat it, and wisdom says there is a way and it will be revealed. And we are a continuum between fear and wisdom, like playing a violin, that the string needs to have attention to it in order to make music. So knowing that there is a relationship between my fear and wisdom gives me hope. And speaking about hope, we're now going to, as we come up, make a little ball as if we've now generated something really that we're working on, something of value, and we're going to turn to the other side. Okay, just hold on to this. Hold on to what you have here. And then get yourself ready, give yourself that room to move from side to side. And here is hope. So we all have, and we're just going to play with this little ball of hope here. We all have wonderful attributes that we can share with others. And what I want to do is take one of those wonderful attributes that we have, and we're going to share that with the world and push it out. And then make ourselves available to the kindness and charity of others, and see what that feels like as it comes inside. Now I'll tell you, sometimes, and this is ego, hey, I'm good, I'm going to share whatever I have with you, and it's no, I'm good, I don't need nothing, and I'm really, really hungering for it. But my ego won't let that happen. Does that sound familiar at all? Let's share, and then let someone else have the wonderful pleasure of giving. And what I want you to do is notice, what does that feel like in the gut? What does that feel like in the very sinews of the hands? What does that feel like in the heart? This is another part of that form of interoception, becoming really keenly more aware of what is going on between the brain and the heart and the body. And as I said in the very beginning, it is the observer hidden in plain sight. It is the observer that is the measure of yin and yang. Push out, share, pull in, collect. And we're going to do that 2 more times. So we're playing with Qi, we're playing with mind, we're playing with body, and we are living in the last time, and we're going to come up now to the center and cross the hands together, cross them. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do what is called a gathering breath, and we've done this many times. What we're going to do for the newcomers is, as if there's a chalice or a bowl, we're going to collect and wash ourselves. How many times does it say in the Bible, and they anointed their head with oil? And we go to the churches and we see the icons, right, with rays of light coming out of their head. Moses came down from Mount Sinai, alive with rays of light. Could they be talking about these sensations of Qi, these sensations that we have? So if we have a prayer, right now would be a good time for you to use it, for yourself. Do you have a mantra? Do you have your own? And I'll tell you that in recovery, there's a couple of really simple ones. There's the old serenity prayer, which is kind of simple. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Good. So now, if we notice, right, our hands, now just physically notice what we're doing without doing that gathering anymore. Just notice that the hands are coming out and down and up, right? You're going out and down and up. Okay, wonderful. So just remember that, okay? So we're going to let one of our hands down, and I'm doing this with my right, and the right hand is going to continue around. And now we're going to turn the body as we do it, and watch this hand go. So it's going to go down into yin, into solid, into the world that we see, and then, like water, evaporates, and then turns into the non-visible aspect of ourselves, and watch that as it goes by. And we're going to do a move, a Tai Chi move called Watching Clouds Pass. And it's with both hands. And this one is really easy. Once you do it once or twice, almost everyone gets it. And if you don't, that's okay. Excuse me. So after we pass by, one more time, we're going to bring the other hand in, and the other hand is going to go in the opposite direction. So we lead with the elbow on the upper hand, and the bottom hand pushes with the palm. And then they change places. Water evaporates, turns into cloud, falls as rain, and then the process is repeated on the other side. And this is called watching clouds pass. It is said that if we do a certain amount of work on ourselves, that we will have moments of time that we have stopped fighting anyone and everything. It doesn't mean it will always be that way, but it means that we will have moments of clarity and moments of peace. And clouds passing is a beautiful, beautiful analogy of rest and restoration. So try to keep the level of the hands comfortable, that it's not going to go really much anywhere above about our chin or our pharynx, maybe in the level of our eyesight, and the lower one, not all the way down, but kind of around the area of the perineum. Now, see if you can notice, as if we're dancing with a lover, one arm around the waist, one around the shoulders, and we turn. As if there's something or someone there. See if you can notice. So, mind-body is a way of us observing the world. There is another way of observing the world, and that is called the unified field. That mind and body are really part of a greater whole. And what is it that unifies mind and body? Can anyone guess? I think we said that in the very beginning, the observer. Because in the observer, there are aspects of the observer that are chemical. There are aspects of the observer that are pure physiological. There are aspects of the observer that are pure awareness. And we are uniting body and mind. Notice what it feels like. This is now a time to not really figure it out. This is a time to catalog the experience. I want you to catalog the experience and save it for later. There's an old song, Mrs. Robinson, put it in the pantry with your cupcakes. I want you to notice this, and you can think about it later. Now is the time for experiencing. Watching clouds pass. A simple question. Does this feel good or not? Now, it is true that we're exercising, and if it hurts, adjust the body. If you're doing something that is causing distress, if the arms are up too high, if they're out too wide, if we're tensed, see what we can do. This movement comes from the ankles, comes from the hips. Wonderful. We're just going to do this a few more times. Okay, one more time each time, and then we're going to do 2 more Tai Chi moves. And before you start getting all excited and say, I don't know how to do Tai Chi, well, we've already done one of them. So now, as if we're going to do it again, hands crossing in front. Wonderful. Doing great. And now, gathering heaven and earth. And going up and down. And now we're going to do a closing, which is the opposite of an opening. So what we're going to do is we're going to pour our weight onto the opposite foot and let our hands come down, palms facing forward. Bring the arms in, up toward yang. And now as we come down, we're going to do this very slowly, hands coming to the top of the head, about 1 inch above the top of the head. Bring them right up now to the top of the head and see if you can notice the feeling of the body and the hands together. We're going to come down slow, tracing the midline of the body. Over the third eye, cleft in the palate, the mental of the chin, throat, sternum, xiphoid process, and then down, further down. So another aspect of Qigong is self-massage, and this is part of the self-massage of noticing. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use our hands and make a big circle. And this is an ancient Taoist, a very, very secret name. I've named it the Big Yum Yum. I hope you don't mind using that name. And we're going to take a little trip here. We're going to take a little trip, and we're going to do some real interoception and proprioception. And what we're going to do is we're going to notice the organs. So before we do that, bring the hands away from the body. We're going to come back to this in a minute. And what I want you to do is move the palms over each other. Just move them around. See if you can get some sort of a, they used to say that the Indians, well, the way they'd start a fire is they rub 2 sticks together, right? You rub 2 sticks together, you create some friction. And whether this is a first time or you're an experienced practitioner, you're probably feeling something going on there. It may feel like the repelling sides of a magnet, like you get close and then there's a sensation of them separating, or a sense of warmth, or a sense of a vibrancy of some type. Great. Well, we're going to now take our hands and we're going to put them by the liver, underneath the rib cage on our right side. And we're going to say out loud, "Thank you, liver." Say it. Thank you, liver. Well, for what? Well, for detoxifying, storing blood, giving us a will. There's so much that the liver does, both in Western and Eastern paradigms. And just notice, what does it feel like? With me, it's like the liver's flopping over on its back like the dog and going, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I never thought you'd notice. Oh, never thought you'd notice." Interoception. There is stuff going on beyond my pay grade that is feeding back to the brain, and the brain is feeding out. But I know it's good. Then we're going to go to the stomach. So here, a thank you might be insufficient. How about a little "I'm sorry"? But really, thank you. thank you for putting up with that. You know, I know you're crying out for other stuff and better stuff, and I'm just tossing all this shit at you, you know, and you're doing the best you can. I know, but I really do appreciate you. I really do. And just notice what that feels like. And then go to the twins, the silent twins of the pancreas and the spleen. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to thank them for being silent. We're going to thank them so much for doing their job quietly, because when they get noisy, we have a huge problem. Then to the bladder. Need I say more? Thank you, bladder. Kidneys. In Oriental medicine, the kidneys are not only for elimination of fluid and generation of adrenal compounds, but they are endemic in the prenatal and the what is called our pre-birth essence. Our deepest of dark hidden energy is in the kidneys. It's a very, very deep feeling, the feeling of the kidneys up to the lungs. The lungs in Oriental medicine are part of and hooked in very, very greatly with our immunological cells, with the capacity to fight disease. There is something called Wei Qi, which the lungs dominate over the skin. In Oriental medicine, they are the external of most organs. And thanking our lungs, they are also the housers of what is called the bliss of union with others, and also its opposite, which is called grief of separation. And the lungs dominate over both grief and the bliss of union. And lastly, up to the heart. What I want us to do is to really feel the essence of the heart and to express love of self. And I will tell you, everything we have been doing here today is a non-narcissistic expression of self-love. It's not necessarily an easy thing to do. However, we can learn how to appreciate ourselves. When I first came into recovery, in the rooms of where I was, people would say to me, "Let us love you until you can love yourself." And I looked at them like, what are you talking about? I had no conception at all of what that might even possibly be. And I thought they were just playing some sort of a word game on me. But I'm here to say that that is possible. And that is something that we do through self-valuing. So noticing the observer on the physical, emotional, chemical, intuitive, expressive self is what we do in recovering the way. And we grab from medicine, we grab from the 12-step method, we grab from the world of Oriental medicine and Qigong, and we unite them in a seamless whole. So I want you now to just let your hands down. We have been standing 55 minutes. So this is exercise, okay? We have been building strength, and I'm going to give a little bit of a hint now. Part of building the lower core strength in Qigong is something called the horse stance. And let's take, since we've been standing so long, we're going to finish with this. So let the legs come out to a little wider than we would usually stand. A little wider than we would usually stand, okay? And again, I'm going to go to that example of a kangaroo. For example, you see how stable a kangaroo is when its tail flops on the ground? Imagine you had that tail and let it flop on the ground, and I'm going to lead the witness here a little bit. Drop the tail and lose the lock in the knee. Lose the lock. So, and when we drop our tail, I'm just going to come to the side. What happens is that the pelvis takes a slight turn forward. So the pelvis is normally sort of like this, and when we drop our tail, the pelvis becomes more straight. We lose a little bit if we have an over-exaggeration in the curve in the lower spine, and then the head. Let's find a place for the head to balance. So, lose the lock. And as we do that, we are then we're using the musculature of the thighs to keep us up. And that's really the way we're supposed to stand, that the knees are not supposed to be for weight transmission, okay? The knees are not supposed to be holding our weight. That's the way that we wear them out. Learning to strengthen the thighs. So strengthen the thighs, drop the tail, head rising. Wonderful. And we're going to do one of those closings again to wrap this up. So we're going to let our weight pour onto one foot, hands coming out, up. And then push down, gently down, gently down. And now let everything go. And what I mean is no more Qigong, no more Tai Chi, no more doing anything yet, no more back to our regular world, no more nothing. This is the payoff, okay? This is the payoff, and notice, just drift. Taking a moment to let us feel that sense of driftiness, fluidity, and see how long it is before what is called the monkey mind starts to come back. But if we can lose the monkey mind for 20 seconds, we can lose it for a minute. If we can quiet the body for a minute, we can quiet the body for an hour. And like putting pearls on a string, or money in the bank, as they say in the recovery process, we build new habits. We build new perceptions, and we actually change the wiring of our brain. It's called brain plasticity. So take a moment to thank yourself. Each of you, take a moment to thank yourself for doing this today.